Side of things this weekend, UFC Fight Night, Ribas versus Namajunas. Amanda Ribas taking on the former champ Thug Rose, Namajunas, the former women's flyweight champ. Strawweight champ.
I'm sorry, I was reading something. What'd you say?
Rose is the former strawweight champ.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you. Now fighting at flyweight.
Yes.
And here we go. Let's talk about. We're going to do the main card for this one.
Yes.
Sweet.
Could probably lightning a few of these earlier ones. I didn't realize this was like 7 fucking fights deep.
6 only, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. No, it's 6.
6, yeah, 6.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, my legs are going nuts tonight. Let's see. We have a couple of prospects. We have Luis. Omar, help me say this name. Pajuelo?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Oh, Luis Pajuelo.
Yes.
Pajuelo.
UFC debut on the heels of his win on Contender Series. Looking good. He is 8-1 as a pro, with 7 of his 8 wins coming by way of knockout. The other one being a decision win. Has never been finished himself. He is 28 years old, and he's fighting out of Lima, Peru. Now he'll be fighting El Valentin. No, I said that wrong. Valiente. Fernando Padilla, 15-5 as a pro, 27 years old, out of Chihuahua, Mexico. He's 15-5. Like I said, he out of his 15 wins, 8 of them have come by way of submission. Another 5 by knockout, and he is 1-1 thus far in the UFC. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know too much about Luis Pajuelo just because of he's done the Contender Series, once TKO to the body. Looks like he's got some finishes on here. He's got a couple of decisions as well. Obviously, very solid fighter. Fernando Padilla has been in the UFC now for just a little bit, and is 1-1 so far, having beat Arosa and then having decision loss to Kyle Nelson. The thing that I thought was interesting about Padilla early on in his career, when we first saw him in the UFC, was the length and his ability to use that length. And then he fought Kyle Nelson and somehow forgot how to use his length completely. So I don't really know what kind of consistency we have here when it comes to Fernando Padilla. What I do know is that Pajuelo is somebody who seemingly comes to fight. Doesn't have a ton of third rounds in his career, and so I just think he's going to put it on Padilla one way or the other. Whether Padilla comes out winning, and matching that fire or not, I just think that fire is going to come from Pajuelo. So I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm assuming the underdog here, and Luis Pajuelo, and I will do second round KO.
Okay, Mark.
So you are correct. He is the underdog. He's plus 135. Padilla is minus 165 as the favorite. 3 inches of height and 6.5 inches of reach for Padilla, so pretty significant size advantage for him. And he is a really accurate puncher. So with the length on his side, that could be a factor. We did see what he can do, as you mentioned, when he finished Julian Rosa in his debut. But also, as you alluded to, I really hated the way that he fought against Kyle Nelson. And it's hard for me to pick him right now coming off of that fight without having seen him again since that fight. He just was it's like he didn't want it. Like he was just in there to be there. And especially when he's fighting a guy in Pajuelo who was a national champion boxer in Peru and who brings a high level of aggression and violence. I'd rather go with that guy. Give me the guy who I know is going to look to finish the fight and knows how to do it over the guy who I'm not sure that I can trust to be active in there. So I will go Luis Pajuelo, round 2 knockout.
I concur, Doctor. I think that Pajuelo is going to go in there. I agree. I think he's going to knock him out. I'll go round 1 to be a little different from Mark.
Ball on the dog. Look at us go.
What do we got next here? Let me get rid of these. Billy Q taking on Youssef Zalal. Billy Quarantillo is the 35-year-old fighting out of Tampa, Florida. Record stands at 18-5 as a pro. He's 6-3 in the UFC. And he's coming off of a win over Damon Jackson by UD back in August. Youssef Zalal, the Moroccan Devil. He is 27 years old, fighting out of Denver, Colorado, affiliated with Factory X Muay Thai. His record stands at 13-5 with one draw, and he's dead even 3-3 thus far in the UFC after a 4-2 run in the LFA. Mark, start us off this time. Give us the odds, your take, and your pick.
All right, Billy is minus 160 is the favorite. Zalal is plus 130 on the other end. The height is the same. Zalal will actually have a 5-inch reach advantage, though, which is interesting considering he spent some time at bantamweight in the UFC, and this is obviously featherweight, but he's a long dude. And I'm happy to see Youssef Zalal back in the UFC. I thought at the time that he got cut that it was maybe a little aggressive. He's gone 3-0 since then, and he obviously found himself a short notice opportunity here to hop back in, so good for him. And honestly, this wouldn't be the craziest upset ever, which clearly Vegas sees based on these odds at having him as only plus 130, because he's going to be faster than Billy. He's longer than Billy, and he's probably the better striker, technique for technique. But with that said, I don't feel like I'm ready to pick that. We've just seen Billy break guys too many times for me to not trust him here. And the X factor for me that made me go away from considering the upset is that it's in the small cage. We're in the apex, and we know Billy excels at keeping that pressure. And in the small cage, I think Zalal has a harder and harder time keeping Billy off him as this fight goes on. Plus, it's short notice for Zalal. So if Billy, so I think Billy can take this fight over, even if he has to go to the wrestling. I think he has that in the back pocket. So I'm going to go with him to win AUD.
Omar.
I'm also going with Billy Q to win AUD. I will say the thing that concerns me the most about Billy Quarantillo was really that Edson Barbosa fight. Watching Billy Q run into a well-timed knee because of his aggression, because of his pace, because it's at a point where you kind of know, at certain points you can time that knee quite efficiently because that's what Billy Q does, right? He gets you in the cage. He tries to go for a takedown. He'll throw some punches at you. He'll try to go for a takedown. And it does concern me that happened. And if no adjustments were made, I definitely see Zalal taking his head. I would have to imagine that doesn't happen again. I want to hope that he patched that hole up a little bit. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna go with Billy Q here by decision, but it is a concern.
It's too big of a concern for me, and as much as I love me some Billy Q, I mean, the guy's a dog, man. I do think that Zalal is going to be too much for him, and I think that he's going to roll on, and I do see Zalal getting out of there with a finish. I'm going to say a club and sub in round 3 for Zalal. But I think Billy's going to hold on until then because he's such a dog. Okay. Here we go. Payton Talbott taking on Cameron Saaiman. So Talbott's the undefeated young prospect, 25 years old, out of Nevada, 7-0 as a pro. 5 of those 7 wins being knockouts. He went 1-0 in Contender Series and won his UFC debut against my friend, somebody who I have announced before, and as well as his brother, Nick Aguirre, back in November. And he'll be standing across from Cameron Saaiman, another young prospect, him out of South Africa. He is 9-1 as a pro. He's 23 years old, out of Pretoria, South Africa. And he's now 3-1 in the UFC after winning on Contender Series. And 6 of his 9 wins have been by knockout. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
I wish I could give you a better breakdown of their skills. Both of them are really good. Cameron Saaiman is somebody who we've seen have great success in the UFC so far. Ran into Christian Rodriguez, who we recently just alluded to, or recently just talked about in the recap, and lost. It didn't really say much about him as far as he's still a good fighter. He's a fantastic fighter. We've seen how good Christian Rodriguez is as well. Payton Talbott, though, I was really impressed in his fight with Nick Aguirre. I thought he looked absolutely fantastic. And I think the other thing I took away from it was the tattoo, the bleach tattoo that he has on there. And I think my nerd ass is going to have to go in that direction. So I'm going to go with Payton Talbot here, man. I'm going to go with Payton Talbot by second round KO.
Would you say it's a bleach tattoo?
It's an anime called Bleach. And that blacked out tattoo that he has in the center of his chest is what is called it's what's put on what's called a hollow in that show. Basically, they're like demon things that fight and are really strong and shit. The point is, it's a nerd tattoo. I gotta be on board.
Okay.
I gotta.
All right. Well, we're gonna have different breakdowns. Payton Talbot is favored here. He's minus 155. Cameron Saaiman is the dog, plus 125. Talbot a little bigger. He'll be 2 inches taller. He will have 3 inches of reach. This is a tough call for me because I feel like what these kids bring to the table is pretty similar. They're well-rounded. They can strike. They can wrestle. They both can snatch up a sub if you make a mistake. It's not necessarily what they're 100% looking for, but they're both capable of it. Obviously, we just saw Talbot do it. But really what makes it tough for me is that I just don't feel like I've seen enough of Payton Talbot yet to confidently make a pick here. So I know what I've seen from Saaiman. I know that I have been, fairly high on him. Not that he's going to be some title contender, but I have liked what I've seen. I trust his scrambling. I trust his ability to mix things up at the right time to swing fights in his favor. He's always seemed to have a knack to know, how to change a fight. It's entirely possible that I come out of this saying like, oh, wow, Payton Talbot is really good. Like, we got to keep an eye on him. But we'll see. For right now, the pick for me is Cameron Saaiman, and I will go with the UD.
I'm going to side with Mark on this one. I'm a little salty because Payton, he beat my friend last time.
Sure.
And nerd tattoos aside, I'm down with that to a certain extent. That's cool. But that being said, before Cameron Saaiman ran into Christian Rodriguez, the man carried a lot of hype with him into the UFC. The young man, I should say. He's only freaking 23 years old. So I'm going to roll with Saaiman on this one. And I'm going to say that he's going to get the better of Payton Talbot on scorecards. I'll say UD for Saaiman. Okay, few more here. 3 more. We go up to the middleweight division. Edmen Shahbazyan taking on AJ Dobson. Shahbazyan is the 26-year-old fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Where's he from originally? Isn't he not American?
Is he?
I thought he was not American.
He's Algerian, right? Is he Algerian?
I don't know. It says he's from LA here.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't
American.
mean born.
My bad.
I don't know where he might have been born here. I just mean like his background.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, he's born. He was born here. I have no idea where he's.
My bad.
Yeah.
My bad, Edmen. So 26 years old, a red-blooded American. He is fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He's 12-4 as a pro. I can't believe he's still only 26.
Yeah, Armenian. Yeah.
He, after going 1-0 on the Contender Series, he is now 5-4 in the UFC. Of his 12 wins, 11 of them have been finishes, 10 of those being knockouts. And this time, he's going to be trying to knock out AJ Dobson, a 32-year-old out of Powell, Ohio. His pro record stands at 7-2 coming into this weekend, with 5 of those 7 wins being finishes, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's 1-2 in the UFC after winning on Contender Series. And he's coming off of a UD win over Tafa and Chukwi. Mark started off this time. Give us the odds, your take, and your pick.
So Shahbazyan is 2-1. He's minus 200. AJ Dobson is plus 165. 1 inch of height for Edmen, but 1 inch of reach for Dobson. So they are pretty similar. I think Edmen should get this one. I admit Dobson has shown some potential at times. Obviously, he did look good in his last win over Nchukwi, but I'm just not convinced that he's on this level. Or rather, I guess I should say I'm not convinced Edmen has fallen as far as some people may think. Like, yes, he's lost 4 out of 5. That's never a good look. But the 4 men that beat him are Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Nasruddin Imavov, and Fluffy Hernandez. Like, it's going to happen with all those guys. Those are like top 10 level fighters throughout. And I still think Edmen is plenty fast enough and plenty powerful enough to hurt AJ Dobson in this fight and maybe even do it quickly. And I don't think Dobson is like an overbearing wrestling threat that Shahbazyan can't handle either. So give me Edmen Shahbazyan. I will go round 1 knockout.
Omar.
Yeah, I generally trust Edmen Shahbazyan. I know he's had some inconsistencies as of late, to say the least. But I still think he's a very good fighter, man. I still think he's really at the top of the pack when it comes to his skills. I think his biggest issue, is trying to actually put it all together and really getting into that mindset that really works for him. But I think skill for skill, I think the kid is very, very talented. AJ Dobson has also kind of had his highs and lows in here, but he hasn't had them, in my opinion, against the same, necessarily level of talent. They both ran into guys with good names. I just think Edmen Shahbazyan has just run into a few more of them, and I think the names are a little bit stronger. So I'm going to go with Shahbazyan here. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ Dobson necessarily wins the fight, but I just have a little bit more confidence in Edmen to win this. So I'm going to go with Edmen here by unanimous decision.
I'm going to depart from you guys on this one. I think that Shahbazyan has really been making me nervous as of late. I know that he's been a young prospect. He still is super young. I forget that he's only 26. I think of him as a guy who was young in the UFC and now has sort of aged and grown up before our very eyes. But no, he's still only 26 years old. That being said, a lot of red on his record as of late in the past few years, since 2020, basically, since the pandemic. He has lost 4 of his last 5. I need to see something more from him before I start really getting back on the Shahbazyan bandwagon. I'm going to say he drops another decision to Dobson here. So UD for Dobson is my pick. Okay, 2 more. Here we go. Co-main event UFC Fight Night. Ribas versus Namajunas. So the co-main event in the heavyweight division, we have Karl Williams taking on Justin Tafa. So Williams, 34 years old, born in the U.S. Virgin Islands, fighting out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's 9-1 as a pro, currently riding a 6-fight win streak. He's also 2-0 in the UFC, also 1-0 under the PFL banner. Let's see, has not lost a fight since 2021. Most recently, he beat Chase Sherman quite a while ago, back in 2023, almost a year ago. Justin Badman Tafa, the 30-year-old, born in West Auckland, New Zealand, fighting out of Brisbane, Australia. 7-3 with 1 no contest, currently riding a 3-fight win streak. He's 4-3 in the UFC, and most recently he let's see, what did he do? He knocked out Austin Lane in the first round. This was back in September. Mark started off again. Give us the odds, the take, and the pick.
So Karl Williams is favored. He is -185. Justin Tafa is +155. 3 inches of height and 5 inches of reach for Williams. I will admit it is entirely possible that Justin Tafa is leveling up from the guy who lost to Jared Vendera not that many fights ago. He has knocked out 3 straight dudes since then. But none of them had the avenue of wrestling that Karl Williams has. Now, granted, no one ever takes Justin Tafa down, so maybe he has much better takedown defense than we realize, but I kind of tend to think he just hasn't really fought opponents who are dead set on doing it. If you look through his list of opponents, there's not too many huge wrestling threats on that list. And Karl Williams has looked like a beast, man. He's super strong. He runs you over with takedowns, runs through you. He's aggressive. He has cardio that looks like it should outlast Justin's cardio. And the jab has looked educated enough to me to be okay when they're standing across from each other. So I think it'll be a risky one, especially if there are multiple entries in this fight. He's going to have to avoid uppercuts and shots like that where we know Justin Tafa excels. So certainly a dangerous fight. And like I said, Tafa might be getting better than I'm giving him credit for here. It's hard to tell because of the opponent list, I will say. But I'm going to go Karl Williams to win AUD behind his wrestling.
Omar.
Yeah, I really, really hate picking against the Tafa brother, just for my own mental sanity. But the reality is, just like Mark alluded to, Karl Williams' wrestling is kind of a problem. And I think more so just because it's what he relies on. And like Mark said, Justin Tafa hasn't fought anybody that relies on their wrestling the way that Karl Williams does. Granted, Justin Tafa has 100% takedown defense in the UFC, but that happens when no one actually tests you. So I guess we'll find out this weekend what that takedown defense really looks like. I'm going to choose to believe in Justin Tafa because he's Justin Tafa. Sure. But I am not going to be surprised if this ends up being a ground show for Karl Williams. But I'm going to go with Justin Tafa here. I say he gets a Tafa thing done, and we're going to go first round KO.
I'm with Omar. There's something magic about those Tafa boys. Give me J Tafa. Give me J Tafa by knockout. Oi! I'll say round one. Oh, it would be his Karl Williams' second first-round knockout loss. All right, boys. Main event time here, UFC Fight Night, and this will close us out for tonight. We made decent time for a pretty long episode. Let's see. In the main event of this UFC Fight Night, in the women's flyweight division, Amanda Ribas taking on former champion Thug Rose Namajunas. So, introducing first out of the blue corner, Thug Rose Namajunas, really needing no introduction to MMA fans and diehards especially. 31 years old, born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, fighting out of Arvada, Colorado. Her record as a pro stands at 11-6. She's got to be way up there for like fewest fights to a championship. Because
fair thought.
After all this time, her pro record still only stands at a pretty small number of fights in 17 pro fights.
Yep. Less than 20 career fights, and she's won the belt what, twice?
Yeah. Because she's such a star. She is 9-5 under the UFC banner, and she is very much looking to right the ship here on a 3-fight losing skid here. The 3 losses were against Carla Esparza. I believe that was for the belt, right? That's when she lost the belt, right? And that was one of the worst fights ever.
The worst fight ever, not one of.
That was the worst fight ever.
Jillian Robertson choked her out. And then Manon Fior.
Who choked her out?
Jillian Robertson.
No, she did not.
Lost. Her naked choke.
She did not fight Jillian Robertson. You might be looking at a jiu-jitsu match, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Tapology what do you want? Tapology? Yeah. Tapology doesn't give a shit. They'll put in a 5K in there if they want.
No, and you can sort it out by clicking off grappling. I don't know.
And that's correct. Now that I think about it, I actually remember when she lost that grappling match.
That was pretty recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes way more sense now. Even when you said 3 in a row, I was like, 3 in a row? I thought it was 2. But yeah, now everything's clicking.
Tapology. I wish there was a way to default turn that off on Tapology. Anyway, definitely still looking to right the ship because she suffered back-to-back losses for the first time in her career in MMA, losing to Esparza and then now Fior. And here we go, introducing out of the red corner, Amanda Ribas. She is the 30-year-old fighting out of Brazil. Her pro record stands at 12-4. Let's see here, 7-3 under the UFC banner. And she's coming off of a nice win against Luana Pinheiro back in November. Okay, here we go. Omar, start it off. Give us your take and your pick for this main event.
This is a really, really difficult fight to pick, and I think the reason this is so difficult is because Rose has been out for she's been out for a little while, even prior to the Manon Fiora fight. But it feels like her activity is just not there. Granted, it wasn't like she was the most active fighter back then, but it just felt like we always saw Rose fighting somewhere. And for whatever reason, just between the Carla Esparza fight and even this last Manon Fiora fight, which she looked like the smaller fighter, she looked like she was getting out muscled in that fight. I don't know. It just hasn't really seemed like Rose has been there. So it is difficult for me to pick Rose at this point. It's difficult to know where she's at mentally. Were there issues with her and Perillo? Because I feel like there were issues with her, Perillo, and this dude. What's his name?
Parillo? Do you mean to say Trevor Whitman?
Yes, that's what I meant, actually. Yes. Trevor Whitman and
what happened against
Pat
Fury?
Barry.
One of them didn't corner her against Fury. Either Trevor or Pat. I'm forgetting who was not there.
I think it was
Fury.
Trevor, because I think Pat kept telling Trevor, or kept trying to tell Trevor what to do, or kept going against the advice that Trevor was giving, or something along those lines. So like the coaches thing wasn't really vibing. And obviously Pat is, the husband / trainer and has been for forever. So I think he just took precedent. I don't know. I really don't know what to make of Rose, man. And it's not like Amanda is somebody that I could count on my eyes closed either, as far as that's concerned, which is really a big problem. And what makes this fight, I guess, equally interesting and also equally difficult to pick. So I really don't know. Amanda Ribas could absolutely be on and could really tear some shit up. Her combos can be fantastic. Her speed could be fantastic. And then there are days where she gets taken down, and days where it doesn't look like she's fighting at all. And there's no combos and there's no volume, and she's just standing there and getting beat. And so it's difficult to figure out which one of these women are going to show up. So I guess I'll stick with Rose. I guess just Rose has just fought some of the best in the division and has been for forever. And I'm going to try to trust her experience in this one. So I'm going to go with Rose here by unanimous decision.
I'll go next, and I will say that I will go against Omar here. And I think that Amanda Ribas is going to have a moment here, and on paper at least the biggest win of her career over the former champ and beloved Thug Rose Namajunas. I think that I envision Ribas totally being on. I love what you said about her kind of sometimes being on and sometimes not. But I think she's going to be on for this one. How could you not be? And I think I see her being a little bit bigger and more physical than Rose Namajunas. I think she's going to get it to the ground. Rose always has had an underrated ground game and great submissions. She really became known more and more as a great kickboxer as her career went on. But that being said, I think Ribas is going to have the advantage on the ground. I think she's going to out physical Rose, and I think that Ribas is going to cruise to a 5-round decision here. So UD for Ribas. Mark?
Cruise. Wow. Very bold. All right. Ribas is the underdog. She is plus 200. Rose is minus 250 as the favorite. 2 inches of height for Rose, 1 inch of reach for Ribas. I love this fight. You guys know that I love Amanda Ribas. I'm always stressing how I think she's continually underrated in both of these divisions. I prefer her at strawweight, but same goes for flyweight. And I'm happy to see her get an opportunity like this against a big name and to main event a card. But with that said, I don't think that I love this matchup for Amanda. What makes her great is that she is aggressive and that she's a threat to finish most girls wherever her advantage lies in that particular fight, whether it's on the feet against a particular opponent or on the mat against a particular opponent. She knows how to leverage it. She'll hurt you in both places. She's a problem in both places. But against Rose, I don't know where that advantage lies. Like, she's certainly not a better striker than Rose. Is her jits better? I mean, maybe by a smidge if we're trying to see it her way, but I don't think I see her tapping Rose Namajunas. And the problem for me with Ribas is that she gets hit a lot and cleanly. And she's tough as shit, so normally she can push through it. But it's not a 15-minute fight, first off. It's a main event. And it's a higher level. And 25 minutes in a cage against a striker as technical and as precise as Rose, who will set you up the way that Rose will. It's a lot of minutes to not get hit cleanly. And I don't know if Rose is going to be winning the fight or losing the fight or what, but I just think that over those 25 minutes, she will catch Ribas a few different times, and eventually it's going to be one time too many. So I will go Rose Namajunas, round 4, TKO.
Ooh,